The young and the restless spoiler's shock. After many days of relentless pursuit and soul-searching, Nate finally found himself standing at the precipice of truth, a truth that, while shattering, was also oddly liberating. In a quiet, dimly lit room, Elena had revealed the long-buried secrets Nate had so desperately sought. Her hesitant confession had unveiled a tangled web of lies, betrayals, and unexpected kinship that threatened to upend the very foundation of his existence. For months, Nate had been haunted by an inner void, a longing for a sibling, a partner in the journey of life who could share in the moments of joy, sorrow, and everyday struggles. He had dreamt of the day when he would finally welcome a brother into his heart, someone to confide in and build a happy, united family. But nothing could have prepared him for the revelation that now lay before him. Damian, a young man whose eyes held the weight of too many unshed tears, had taken the brave step of presenting undeniable evidence that shook the family to its core. In his trembling hands were the results of every DNA test ever performed, each result a cold, clinical testament that he was indeed the biological son of Amy. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, the genetic truth also underscored a painful separation. While Damian was unquestionably Amy's son, he was not Nate's brother. Their bond, as real as it had seemed, was severed by the revelation that they did not share the same father. Amy, whose name now dripped with infamy in Nate's mind, had tried to manipulate the narrative. With careful, calculated deceit, she had attempted to redefine familial relationships so that everyone might accept the horrifying truth that destiny had conspired to bring two half-siblings together, while still leaving an irreparable gap between them. Her efforts to repackage the betrayal as a twisted form of fate were as futile as they were monstrous. To Nate, Amy's lies were not just falsehoods. They were a betrayal of trust, a desecration of the familial bonds he had once taken for granted. Nate's inner world was in turmoil. He had always envisioned a future where his loneliness would be alleviated by the presence of a loving brother, a companion who would stand by him through life's highs and lows. Now, faced with the reality that Damian, though sharing a mother with Amy, could never be the brother he had yearned for, Nate was left grappling with a bitter cocktail of disappointment and heartbreak. The emptiness that had long gnawed at him now felt more profound than ever, echoing the stark truth that sometimes dreams and reality are irreconcilable. In the midst of the revelation, a heart-wrenching scene unfolded. Damian, overcome with emotion, could no longer contain the torrent of his feelings. Tears streamed down his face as he struggled to articulate the complex mix of grief, relief, and forgiveness that filled his heart. In that moment, despite the overwhelming betrayal, Damian found it in himself to forgive his mother Amy. His forgiveness was not born out of forgetfulness, but rather from the profound understanding that, at least, he had been blessed with the presence of a kind-hearted soul in Nate, someone who embodied the brotherhood he had always craved. Yet, the question loomed large and foreboding: how should they all move forward from here? The newly unveiled truth created a chasm in their family, one that could either become a source of newfound strength or an insurmountable barrier to unity. Nate's simmering anger towards Amy was tempered only by the bittersweet hope that, despite everything, a sense of familial connection might still be salvaged. Would he be able to accept Damian, not as the brother he always imagined but as the complicated, genuine human being before him? For Nate, the journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty. The revelations had shattered the idealized image of family that he had built up over years of longing and solitude. He now faced a harsh reality: family is not always defined solely by the bonds of shared blood or the fulfillment of our deepest desires. Sometimes, it is the choices we make in the aftermath of betrayal and heartache that determine the course of our lives. Determined to confront the treachery head-on, Nate resolved to make Amy confess the full extent of her deceit. He planned to confront her with a mix of raw emotion and relentless determination. "Why?" he would demand, his voice echoing with hurt and fury. "Why would you dare to rewrite the definition of family? Why did you lie to all of us, and to me, in such a callous manner?" His questions were not just a demand for an explanation but a desperate plea for accountability, a plea for the truth to be laid bare for everyone to see. Amy's betrayal was a stain on the fabric of their family. In her bid to reconfigure relationships to suit her own ends, she had ignited a storm of emotions that now threatened to sweep away any semblance of unity. Nate's insistence on confronting her was driven by a need for closure, to understand the motives behind her machinations, and to reclaim the dignity of a family he believed in. It was a confrontation that promised no easy resolutions, only the arduous path of truth and reconciliation, or perhaps irrevocable separation. Meanwhile, Damian's tears were not just symbols of sorrow, but of an inner resilience born from the acceptance of his unique fate. In forgiving Amy, he recognized that sometimes the human heart chooses compassion over vengeance, even when the pain inflicted is unbearable. His willingness to embrace his circumstances was both a testament to his strength and a poignant reminder of the complexities of familial love. The burning question remained, would Nate ever be able to see beyond the betrayal to accept Damian as a brother in all but name? Could he, with time, open his heart to the possibility of forging a new kind of relationship, a bond that, although different from what he had once imagined, might still hold the promise of genuine love and shared understanding? Nate's internal conflict was a microcosm of the broader struggle between the ideal and the real, a testament to the unpredictable, often painful, nature of human relationships. As the days turned into nights and the echoes of confrontations filled the air, the family was forced to confront the inevitable, that rebuilding trust would be a slow, painstaking process. Each member of the fractured family had to reckon with their own part in the unfolding drama. Nate's journey, in particular, was one of personal redemption and transformation. He had to learn that family is not merely a predetermined label, but a dynamic tapestry woven from trust, forgiveness, and the willingness to embrace imperfections. In this turbulent chapter of their lives, the scars of betrayal were both a constant reminder of the past and a catalyst for change. Nate's determination to force Amy into a corner, to extract the truth from her cold, calculating heart, was a reflection of his own desire to reclaim control over a life that had been marred by deception. And yet, as he prepared to confront her, he also found himself questioning if the pain was worth the potential for healing. Could the wounds inflicted by such profound betrayal ever truly mend, or were they destined to fester in the shadows of broken dreams? The dilemma was further complicated by the presence of Damian, a man caught in the crossfire of a web spun by deceit and misguided ambitions. His heartfelt act of forgiveness, though a noble gesture, did little to erase the lingering bitterness of betrayal. For Damian, the only solace lay in the potential for a new beginning, a chance to redefine what it meant to be part of a family. He longed not for the idealized image of brotherhood that Nate had once envisioned, but for a relationship built on mutual respect and the shared experience of overcoming adversity. In the end, the family's future hung in the balance, poised between the possibility of reconciliation and the specter of permanent division. Nate's ultimate decision, whether to accept Damian as a true brother or to allow the chasm of betrayal to widen, would shape the destiny of them all. The path forward was uncertain, paved with the remnants of shattered trust and the glimmers of hope that perhaps, in the aftermath of deceit, something genuine and enduring could still emerge. As the dust settled on the confrontation and the revelations echoed through the corridors of their intertwined lives, one thing remained clear: the truth, no matter how painful, was a necessary catalyst for growth. And in that truth, there lay a possibility, a slim, fragile hope, that even the deepest wounds could one day heal, forging a new definition of family that embraced both the light and the darkness within the human heart. This intricate narrative encapsulates the raw emotions, conflicted loyalties, and the turbulent journey of self-discovery and reconciliation. It is a story of betrayal and hope, of a man torn between the dream of an ideal brotherhood and the harsh reality of deception, a story that leaves us pondering the true meaning of family in a world where trust is both fragile and invaluable. After days of relentless pursuit for truth and countless sleepless nights, Nate found himself drowning in a sea of uncertainty and anguish. The revelations that had emerged from Elena's hesitant confession and Damian's tearful presentation of DNA evidence had shaken the very foundation of his family. Yet, amidst the tumult of these revelations, another storm was brewing, one that threatened to plunge them all deeper into despair. Nate's mind was in turmoil as he grappled with the staggering implications of the evidence. Damian, with his sorrowful eyes and trembling voice, had presented the conclusive DNA results confirming that he was indeed Amy's son. However, as the evidence piled up, a crucial detail began to cast doubt on the assumed order of things. While Damian was indisputably Amy's child, he was not Nate's brother. The revelation that they did not share the same father added layers of betrayal and confusion to the already fractured family dynamic. Now, a new and equally distressing question had emerged: who was the real biological father of Damian? Nate, who had always longed for the comforting presence of a sibling to share life's ups and downs, now faced an even deeper mystery. He wanted to know the identity of Damian's biological father, a question that, if answered, could either mend or further tear apart the fragile bonds that remained. The uncertainty was overwhelming. Could it be that the man he had so long trusted, Nathan, was truly Damian's father? Or was there an even more complicated truth waiting to be uncovered? Amy's assertion, firm and unwavering, echoed in the heated debates and tense silences that had become a constant in their home. She insisted that Damian was Nathan's son, claiming that during that tumultuous period in her past, she had only ever been with him. Her words, though delivered with conviction, only deepened Nate's inner conflict. If Amy's account were true, then Nathan would be the only possible biological link to Damian, a fact that should, in theory, resolve the confusion. But then, another haunting possibility arose: what if Nate himself was not the biological son of Nathan? Such a revelation would not only shatter Nate's understanding of his own identity but would also invert the entire narrative he had built about family, loyalty, and belonging. Caught in the midst of this storm of emotions and questions, Nate was left feeling isolated and burdened by responsibilities he had never anticipated. He was desperate for answers, not just for himself, but for the future of his family. The prospect of reconciling the truth with the life they had known was daunting. How could he possibly satisfy everyone's need for clarity when the truth itself seemed to be layered in deception? His heart ached with the longing for a brother, a trusted companion who would share in the joys and sorrows of everyday life, yet the unfolding revelations threatened to turn that hope into a bitter memory. In the midst of these revelations, the household became a battleground for clashing emotions. Nate and Amy found themselves locked in fierce and heated arguments that reverberated through every corner of their lives. Their debates were not merely about Damian's paternity; they represented a clash of worldviews, a collision of ideals about what family meant and how the past should define the future. Nate, with his deep-seated need for familial connection, could not comprehend how Amy could manipulate the truth to suit her own ends. He was determined to confront her, to force a confession that would expose every shred of deceit that had poisoned their lives. Amy, on the other hand, remained steadfast in her narrative, insisting that all evidence pointed to Nathan as Damian's only possible father. She argued that during that critical period, she had no other choice. Her intimacy with Nathan was the only chapter in her past that could logically explain Damian's existence. Yet, even as she spoke, the shadow of doubt loomed large. Nate's questions grew more persistent. If Amy's narrative was indeed the truth, why had the family's DNA results painted such a tangled picture? And if Nate himself was not the biological child of Nathan, what did that mean for his own identity, for the very definition of their family? Amidst this chaos, the possibility of a second, more comprehensive DNA test emerged as a beacon of hope, a chance to put an end to the swirling uncertainties once and for all. The idea of another test was both a desperate plea for truth and a rational response to the conflicting claims. Could another round of DNA testing finally unravel the mystery of Damian's paternity? Would it reveal that Amy's version of events was indeed correct, or would it cast further doubt on the family's already fragile foundation? As Nate weighed his options, his heart felt like it was being torn in two. On one side was the possibility of finally having the brother he had yearned for, a confidant with whom he could share both the burdens and the joys of life. On the other was the painful likelihood that the man he hoped to call his brother was nothing more than a stranger, a product of a lie spun by a woman whose betrayal had left an indelible mark on everyone involved. Damian, meanwhile, continued to navigate his own path through this emotional minefield. His tear-stained face and the quiet resignation in his voice spoke volumes about the inner battle he was waging. Despite the profound hurt he had endured, Damian chose a path of forgiveness. His decision to forgive Amy was not born out of weakness, but rather out of a deep-seated understanding that clinging to bitterness would only hinder his own ability to heal. For him, forgiveness was a necessary step towards embracing a future that, while uncertain, held the promise of genuine human connection. In this intricate web of relationships, every revelation, every question, and every confrontation served as a reminder of the complexity of family ties. Nate's quest for the truth about Damian's paternity was not just a search for biological facts, it was a journey to reclaim his own identity and to redefine what family meant to him. The looming possibility that he might not be Nathan's true son added a crushing weight to his shoulders. It forced him to confront the possibility that everything he had believed about his past could be a fabrication, a carefully constructed narrative designed to mask uncomfortable truths. The tension between Nate and Amy escalated into a series of confrontations that left the household in a state of emotional disarray. Their arguments were fierce and unrelenting, each exchange punctuated by raw emotion and the desperate need for resolution. Nate's voice, filled with a mix of sorrow and anger, demanded answers. Why would you allow this web of lies to grow? Why did you risk everything, twisting the truth to create a false sense of family? His words echoed the collective pain of every member of the family, each seeking solace in a truth that had been obscured by betrayal. Amy's responses, measured and defiant, only served to deepen the divide. She maintained that her actions were justified by circumstances and that her decisions, though perhaps unorthodox, were the only ones that could have made sense in the chaos of her past. Yet, as her words faltered under the relentless pressure of Nate's questioning, the fragile veneer of her narrative began to crumble. The possibility that there might be another explanation, a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered, became increasingly difficult to dismiss. In the midst of this emotional chaos, the proposal for a new DNA test grew more urgent. It was not merely a scientific inquiry, it was a desperate attempt to salvage the remnants of trust that still lingered within the family. With every conflicting claim and every heart-wrenching revelation, the need for absolute certainty became more pressing. Who was Damian's real father? And what did that mean for Nate, whose entire identity was now called into question? The answers to these questions would determine the future course of their lives, either paving the way for reconciliation and healing or sealing the fate of their familial bonds in an unbreakable fracture. As the family braced for yet another round of painful truths, Nate's internal struggle reached its peak. His mind was a battlefield where hope and despair fought for dominance. On one hand, the dream of a united family, a vision of two brothers sharing not only blood but a deep, unspoken bond, remained an ever-present beacon of hope. On the other, the harsh reality of deception, betrayal, and unanswered questions loomed large, threatening to extinguish that hope once and for all. The coming days promised to be filled with more revelations, more confrontations, and an arduous journey towards understanding. Nate's resolve hardened with each passing moment. He knew that only by facing the truth head-on, no matter how painful, could he hope to forge a new path forward. The DNA test, the forthcoming confrontations with Amy, and the inner turmoil that gripped him were all pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, might finally reveal the real story behind Damian's paternity. In the final analysis, the question of who was truly responsible for Damian's existence was more than a matter of science or evidence. It was a question that challenged the very notion of family itself, a family defined not solely by the strands of DNA, but by the shared experiences, the forgiveness offered in moments of weakness, and the relentless hope for a future built on genuine trust and love. As Nate prepared to face Amy in what he hoped would be the ultimate confrontation, he also steeled himself for the possibility that the answers might force him to redefine everything he thought he knew about his identity. The outcome remained uncertain, the future a tangled tapestry of truths and lies. Yet, in that uncertainty lay the promise of transformation, a chance to rebuild, to heal, and perhaps, one day, to find solace in a truth that was as raw and real as the emotions coursing through his heart. The path forward was treacherous, filled with difficult choices and painful realizations, but Nate was resolved to pursue it, one step at a time, in the hope that eventually, the true meaning of family would reveal itself, shining a light on even the darkest corners of their shared past.